Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to this series that I'm carrying on, my morals and values. Today is episode 4, so let's get straight into it. It's time to talk about selfishness versus selflessness. What do I mean by selfishness versus selflessness? For me, this saying, this way of looking at it is actually really hard to see on face value and is extremely hard to separate the both because they are very similar. They very much mean the same in certain aspects, but also are totally juxtaposed to each other, are totally different to one another. And for me, the way I look at selfishness versus selflessness is actually understanding when you need to be selfish, but also understanding when to be selfless. And sometimes you feel like being selfless is the best for you. And I've said this before, putting other people first, when in reality, you actually need to be selfish. You need to put yourself first. You need to prioritize yourself. You need to do this, you do this before you can do that for the other person. That's one way of looking at it. And I suppose for me, and the way I take this is being conscious about it, is being conscious about what you're doing, whether that's a selfish act or a selfless act. And it's hard to be conscious. It's hard to know. It's hard to really understand what it is. And it's not easy me just saying it to you. So before I waffle on too much about selfishness versus selflessness, I'm going to actually leave talking about it more to the end. I'm going to go through my other sort of 3 points I have here, and hopefully it becomes clearer and what you can do and how you can do it to see it and to understand, to make a conscious effort to know being selfless and selfish, to know when you need to be selfless or selfish, and hopefully you can be a better person. So, going on from that, selfishness versus selflessness is my first point. Stop being narrow-minded, take a step back, and look at the bigger picture. This is quite self-explanatory. I think many of my points I actually say are self-explanatory on surface value, face value, but what do I mean by stop being narrow-minded and look at the bigger picture? This is a feeling as such. You feel this, and that sounds weird. I know it sounds weird, and it's got to become a conscious effort to feel it, to understand it. But I think there's so many times, I think specifically for me, with anxiety, overthinking, worrying, and very much overthinking and anxiety, I'm thinking about stuff, about situations, scenarios that are totally out of my control, rely on another person, rely on a different situation that I have no say over. And for me, when this happens, one aspect I took that I could see was stop being so narrow-minded with what could happen, being so narrow-minded with what's going on, where it is, and pause. Like really make a conscious effort to pause, stop right there, take a step back and look at everything, the whole scenario, not just the one angle. I think that's what we've got to remember when you're overthinking, when you're panicking, when you've got anxiety. Everything's out of your control. And you're so focused on such a minute detail that could go wrong that you forget about everything else in your life, everything else that's going on. And this is very similar in your life, in what you're doing career-wise, what's happening next week, what's doing this, in a relationship, maybe with family. It could be anything, like I said. You can take this into anything, any part of life you want. But for me, it's really, we get so caught up on such minute details, on things we can't change, and we let them negatively affect us so much that we get so narrow-minded, so focused in on such a minute detail, so small, that actually you need to stop. You need to take a step back. And you need to look at the bigger picture. Look at it all. Look at the grand scheme of everything that's going on. And then you can realize, actually, wow, there's one thing that I've been worrying and panicking about. There's nothing more I can do. I've done everything I can. I can't change this. I can't control this. Let's take a step back. Let's be grateful, appreciative of what we have, of who we are, that we even have this opportunity, maybe, whatever it could be. You take yourself out of being so narrow-minded and you look at everything. And I'm not talking about when people say be grateful because you have running water and food. Again, it's all relative. Of course, you've got to be grateful for that. But more in these certain situations and scenarios where actually you just got to just appreciate who you are, where you are. And it does go hand in hand with what I've said previously, of course, they all do. So that's one way that stop being narrow-minded and take a step back and look at the bigger picture works. And that's very, from your point of view, from who you are and the way you can look at it, with what's going on in your life in a certain aspect, certain scenarios, a certain way. But this follows on perfectly to my next point. And for me, this is putting yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes. And this honestly works perfectly with stop being narrow-minded. Because when you're narrow-minded, all you do is think about yourself. You're thinking about you and only you. You're worrying about yourself. Have you been the best person you can be? Is it my fault? Is this my fault? What else can I do? What more can I do? Am I a failure? Am I this? Why do I feel like this? Why am I this person? Have I upset that person? Whatever it may be, whatever walk of life, whichever way you want to look at it, whatever scenario, situation, wherever you are, whatever age, you have that, you feel that. But you can put yourself in their shoes. As long as you know you've been the best person you can be, the one I'll always look back on this and the way I look at it is loving wholeheartedly, is loving to the absolute max, is in a relationship, treating someone to make sure you know and they know that they're the most special person to you, that you love them with every other ounce of your love that you can do. You do everything for them. And you can hold your head high and know that you did everything you possibly could to be with them and to make them feel special. And the hardest part is if you lose that person, they walk away. You've done all this, you've done everything right. And that is contradictory to what I say, but you feel like you've done everything right, but they still don't choose you. And they explain for multiple reasons why this, why that. And what you'll do is you'll get angry, you'll get upset, you'll blame them, you'll blame yourself. In reality, what you need to do in this situation is put yourself in their shoes. First of all, stop being narrow-minded, take that step back, look at the bigger picture. When you've done that, put yourself in their shoes. Understand why they've made the decision they have. Understand there's nothing more you could do. Understand, come to sense with you've done everything you can. If you've done everything I've said in my previous videos, you've loved wholeheartedly. You've treated them the way you wanted to treat them. There's nothing more you can do. Their decision is theirs. Don't chase, remember? Attract. Don't give up. Don't stop fighting, but don't be a beg. Don't be needy. We know all this. You know this already. So at this point, put yourself in their shoes. If you want answers that you may never get, because you know what? The older you get, the more you learn in life, that just because this is a question doesn't mean there's going to be an answer for most things. So you've got to be able to live with yourself, be the person you are, knowing there isn't going to be an answer. So by putting yourself in their shoes, you can come to a sense, a feeling of why they've made that decision. You can understand it. You can clear your mind. You're not being so narrow-minded, so fixated on this one issue, like, I did this, and they still don't want to be with me. Why are they treating me like this? They've done this. Actually, whoa, take a step back. Look at the bigger picture. then really put yourself in their shoes. They've made this decision because of X, Y, Z. They've done this because of this. And actually, when you do that, you soon realize the more you could have done. You can hold yourself in the highest regard, knowing that you've done everything you possibly could, and there's nothing more you can do. And if they can't appreciate that, if they can't see that, and they don't want to be with you for that, and there's certain reasons why, there's nothing more you can do. You got to come to peace with yourself that that's the decision they've made. That's who they are. That's what's happened. That's what's gone on. That's part of life. It's the way it works. Life isn't always easy. We all know this. But by really putting yourself in their shoes, you can really change your mindset, your outlook. You can come to peace with yourself, knowing that the decision they made was actually, it wasn't because of you. Because you are the best person you can be. You couldn't have treated them any better. You couldn't have loved them any more. You could have made them feel the most special person in the world anymore, because they were. And you know that. And that's the difference. But if you're so fixated on being angry at them for making the decision they made and being upset and blaming them, or if you're blaming yourself, and you're saying, I should have done this more, I should have done this, maybe you should have learned a little bit more. Maybe you can take what has happened and learn from it so it doesn't become a regret. But if you have loved yourself and you love yourself and you know that's not the reason why, and you can see that by doing all this, by stop being narrow-minded, taking a step back, looking at the big picture, by also putting yourself in their shoes, you know. You, with these two sayings themselves, under the umbrella of selfishness or selflessness, you know that. You can see that. And that's what's amazing with everything that I'm saying, is they all go hand in hand. They all work with one each other. That's an analogy I've always used before with what went on in my head and everything that I've been through was, it's like a Venn diagram within a Venn diagram. So in one Venn diagram, you've got a few things, but within that one, it's within another Venn diagram, which has another more and more, and it's forever expanding. And it's so hard to unpick everything because they all did link back. And it's very similar with these, but there's a clear way to be able to see which ones link to each other. I think that's amazing. Putting yourself in their shoes also works, though, in multiple situations, not just a relationship with a girlfriend, boyfriend. It can be with family, it could be with friends, it could even be a job interview, why someone didn't choose you, or the way someone's treated you at work, or the way the world's going at the moment, whatever it could be. You can take this, again, into multiple walks of life. It doesn't just mean one thing. It's just, for me, where it's helped me the most, and it's done the most for me, and the example I give to you is in a relationship after a heartbreak. And it's weird because it hits you like an epiphany, where you tell yourself, and you know it deep down, that, you know what, there's nothing more I can do. There's absolutely nothing more I can do. I know who I am. And if they can't appreciate you and they don't love you for that, that's life. Because there will be someone out there who will. Just keep being you. And that's the way I look at these. My third point, which I've spoken about a little bit before when it was prioritizing yourself, but this is in a different context, a different angle, a different way of looking at it, is love yourself so you can love so much more. And I think with everything that's already been said, there isn't too much to say. If you know you love yourself, if you know who you are, if you can hold your head high and say, this is me, this is who I am. You treat people with kindness, you don't judge, you're not comparing yourself. And you're not doing it because you don't want to, or it's just weird. You're doing it because that's who you are as a person. It's because you love yourself. It's because you've realised you can see the bigger picture in the whole world, not just in our situation, but in the whole world, that you might be having a good day, but there could be someone else having a bad day, and you telling them that they look good, or you like their bag, or their coat, or just saying please and thank you, holding a door open. You realise that means the world to someone. That can make their week, their day, their week. It turn a bad day, something bad could have happened, into a good day, and be like, okay, you know what? For them, not all is lost, and it's cost you nothing. And it's cost you nothing because all it costs you is to love yourself. And loving yourself does cost absolutely nothing. And so for me, this way of saying love yourself so you can love so much more perfectly sways into all of this. Because it works. Because it makes sense. Because if you can stop being narrow-minded, if you can take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you realise that. If you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, if someone's been mean to you, if someone's been horrible to you, let's say you're working. When I worked at this cafe, this bakery, you'd get customers in who would be rude, who would be horrible, and you could let them get to you, make you feel bad, and I'm not saying it doesn't, because sometimes it does because you're having a bad day, but then you realise actually, put yourself in their shoes, what they did is wrong, but you know what, they could have so much going on. Like I said, it doesn't mean what they're doing is right, the way they treated you, but hang on a second, one person said one thing, there's many people who love me, but also, you know what, they could have an awful day. Doesn't mean it's right, but hey, it's the way it happens. And you won't let that affect you because you love yourself. And this sounds weird maybe, but it means you can love them back. It means you're not going to let it affect you, not going to let it hurt you, not going to let it get into your head and play with you, because you realise that there's nothing more you could have done. You love yourself, so you can love so much more. Again, this is something you can take into everything in life. And the same one I always use is a relationship. If you love yourself, you can love your partner so much more. If you love yourself, you can love your family so much more. You can appreciate them. You realise that time is so short, that life is so short, that actually, why would I be mean? You learn to cherish the small moments, the small things in life that really matter, all because you love yourself. Your girlfriend smiling at you becomes the most important thing to you, because it signifies that, I love myself and I love this person. You realise how important it is. You realise that actually there's so much going on in this world. If you're so fixated on one thing that's so small, so narrow-minded, you miss so much more around you. And that's where it comes from. Like I said, you can take this into so many walks of life. By loving yourself, you can love so much more. Friends, family, whatever it may be. And yes, this is a little bit different the way I said it the other day, but it has its same similarities, its same way of saying it. A different context and different way you can take it in. And you could say it's, a different way to look at it. If you struggle with the first way of me saying it and it making sense, you can listen to this one with the other things that you now know and be like, oh, no, actually that does make sense now, whatever it may be. It's all interconnected. It all works there. And I think for me, where this leads into, and this will help me now explain selfishness about versus selflessness so much more. Now you know that all these things, now you know you can stop being narrow-minded, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, put yourself in their shoes, love yourself, and you can love so much more. You realise with these tools you have, with these sayings, this way of outlook on life, the outlook at looking at it, you realise you can make a conscious decision now when you need to put yourself first by being selfish, or when you realise that you've got all these tools, you can put someone else first, you could be selfless. And you have to find that equilibrium. You do have to find that balance. I know I was selfish. I know I was selfless for far too long. But by being selfless, I was being selfish. Selfish to myself, because I wasn't putting myself first, I was hurting myself. But then in that respect, because I wasn't putting myself first, I was treating other people badly and poor. So just because you think being selfless is the way forward and the way it should be, and you think that's what everyone tells you to be, actually sometimes you do need to be selfish. Selfish until you can be selfless. But you've got to find that balance, that equilibrium, that zen, that way of being able to do that. And it doesn't come easy. It takes a lot of work. It is hard work. But when you can make that conscious decision, everything changes. Your outlook on life, who you are. And these all just work hand in hand with one another. Without even thinking about it. You train yourself. They're there. The tools are there so you can do it. If you're too selfish, though, you can't be selfless. You're constantly too much in yourself. It's you. You neglect other people. You don't put other people first because you're like, this is me. You burn bridges. You don't have fulfilled relationships. You don't have a fulfilled life. You think, I'm going to earn all this money, so when I'm 45, I can give it all away and help people. That's all good and well, and give it to charity, and that's fair enough. But in that time, think of how many people you can hurt by being selfless. But you've got to find it. You really have to find it. And don't wait until you're 45. Start finding it now in the small things, the really small things. Like I said, stop being narrow-minded. Find it in the really, really small things in life. Because each day you do it, it changes, and the next time you'll do it something else, and you just have it. It's just there. It's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing concept how it works, and I really, really should say that it's worth it. And I've probably done a butchered job of saying this, and there'll be a way to me, maybe in 6 months' time, maybe in a year, where this will change, and I'll be able to say it. It won't just be a feeling, a deep down feeling. It'll really be able to get out there and say it to you. But for me, and where I am, really concentrate, really focus on being selfless and selfish when you need to be. It could even be selfish in the sense of, you know what, I'm not going out tonight. I don't want to go out. All my friends thought I was going to go out, but for my own mental health, for who I am, where I am, I can't go out tonight. I don't want to drink. You said you're going to drink with your friends. Don't do it. You don't want to. On the other hand, selfless could be, you know what, I'm going to give that lift to a friend. I'm going to give that lift to my sister. You know what, I'm going to go over here because someone needs me right now. Doesn't cost you anything, but it's being selfless. But sometimes you can't be that person. Sometimes you need to be selfish, but like, you know, I'm not in the right place, in the right frame of mind. Can't do this because of this. And that's when you need to be selfish. But you'll find it. You will find that balance, that way of getting it to work, that equilibrium. And when you do, it'll be fantastic. It'll be amazing. And you'll see it come to fruition, time after time, without even thinking about it. And people will start to see it as well. So I encourage you to do it. Stop being narrow-minded. Take a step back. Look at the bigger picture. When you can do that, you can put yourself in their shoes. By putting yourself in their shoes, you can love yourself. And by loving yourself, you can love so much more. Then you can make a conscious effort. Selfishness versus selflessness.